What are some of the practices that you do in your daily life, or even the additional learnings or teachings or whatever you do? What is it that you do that can help you to be there for others?
Well, one of the things I've only recently in the last 12 months come to the awareness of is I'm an empath. Now what that means is I'm an energy empath, so I pick up the energy that people around me are experiencing, and that can be from the mall right through to sitting with a client. So one of the things I worked out is I actually have to protect my own energy space so I'm not impacted by their usual negative, unhappy, sad, angry feelings that they have themselves. So the first is to build a protection around my own space. Second is, I would suggest anybody that has a coach who is triggered by their clients maybe isn't the right coach for them. I don't believe that you should do your therapy from the chair.
Yes.
I have done at least 12 years of my own work on myself, and a lot in the last 3 to 5 years. So I'm able to have compassion, have empathy for their situation, for their history, but I'm not triggered, I'm not caught up, and I'm not playing into the drama that they're experiencing. So I see it for what it is, but I'm not triggered by it.
Now, you use the word wing girl. Where did this come from?
So what I was doing a lot was helping people just on the phone. People would call me for advice. So they knew I was a dating coach to men, and women were calling me up and just saying, this guy's doing such and such, or he's not doing, i.e. calling me back. What does that mean? And so it inadvertently became a service where I would make myself available, particularly for my friends in closed circuit. And they're like, oh my God, you're like my wing girl. And so it was kind of that jokey American perspective, even though I'm Scottish. And it kind of stuck. I went, yeah, that's what I want to be, that person on call. And now I've built that in, so my programs have me on call as they need it, working through their program. So you can literally call me for anything that you need me for. So it's that additional support, because your coaching doesn't stop when you leave the room.
No.
You're still processing, you're still working through whatever insights you just got, and new stuff comes up before your next appointment. So we need to continue that support indirectly. So that's what the Wing Girl support is about.
Oh, that's great. Now, you use the words rekindle, release and rediscover in your program. Tell us about those definitive words and how you came about using those words for your program. What do they mean for you?
So re-sparking within ourselves is taking what we are all born with, which we touched on earlier, and reigniting that so that it plays part of your everyday life. So people are pretty much constantly on a daily basis like, you're so full of energy, you're a ray of sunshine, and it's not just the orange. Where do you get that from? And I've managed to rekindle that spark within myself to see positive, to have balance of the challenges. So I don't see negativity as negativity. This is something I'm meant to learn and grow from. So if you have that perspective, and I try and ignite that within my clients.
So we talked about your traumatic childhood and your past and your experiences, your struggles and challenges. According to you, and from your perspective, what is the biggest deficit in society? What haven't we learnt or been taught about love?
Ooh.
Big question.
It is a big question. How long have we got? A couple of days?
You have 60 seconds to answer that question.
I think for me, we're in a modern society where we're marketed to constantly for comparison, and a lot of fear-based messages are given to us. And if we look at the law of relativity, how do we relate positive and negative? And I think for me, what's missing the most is compassion and the ability to see perspectives of others. Everybody is struggling with something. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but overall, everybody is carrying some sort of trouble. Some are more traumatic than others, but from their reality, it can be just as traumatic as somebody who went through horrific abuse.
Yes.
How we relate to others, how we show up and have compassion and try not to compare our experiences and kind of pigeonhole other people. I think that's one of the few things that are specifically missing from college training, from high school, basic stuff that we need to learn, how to see things from another's perspective without our own judgments on top.
I love how you focus out, and then if we look in, my perspective is that we're not taught resilience. That's a really missing thing. So I also have a traumatic childhood and past, and one of the things that have helped me is resilience. We need to teach this, we need to show this and model this so much more, because the children of today, they're just dropping like by the thousands. And I ask myself, what are we not doing to be able to show this to them, that they will get through it. It's okay. It's just a moment in time. It will pass. So this is why your work is very, very special, because to show those kids love and compassion and then turn it into resilience is quite a powerful thing, and that's amazing. I love your work. Now, you focus on the doing instead of just talking. That's a very, very important aspect when you're actually coaching. I mean, this is serious life coaching now, right? So tell us about how you help transition from the talking into the doing and get your clients motivated to do it.
Well, there's a couple of things that's required. Firstly, sometimes it's simply a sounding board. It might be the first time that they've ever been able to talk about some things. So there's always a place for talking and being heard. Quite often we've been suppressed in our childhood not to speak out. So how I use my body language, reading, how I bring in the facial expressions, the nuances, the body responses to things that are being said. So the coaching then comes into, these are some ideas and some tools and resources that will help you resolve what we've just talked about. Some different ways and different strategies of doing things. However, if we don't resolve the triggers or the causes or the root cause of everything, things are just going to play out maybe a little bit better because you've got better resources, you're able to respond differently. But you're still going to be triggered unless you remove the cause in the first place that's underlying it. So my coaching incorporates a whole range of different techniques. I have been receiving and immersing myself, and I'm constantly learning, a perpetual learner. I bring everything in, so I grow my programs pretty much monthly as I learn a new technique or as I read another book, and I add another nuance to my program so that they're always cutting edge. They're always the most advanced, best possible program they can be.
Now, talking about books, you're actually a published author, and I'm really excited to actually have a look at this book, What Women Really Want. Tell us a little bit about this book. What's in it, and how has it been helping women and empowering them?
Well, it's written for men.
Written for men?
It's actually a dating
It is too, a man's guide. Woman, What Women Really Want, a man's guide. How clever.
Yeah.
But it's been helping women as well.
Yes, so it was written for men to understand principally where they're going wrong in their dating. But it's got personal development. It's got all of those explanations about the differences between men and women. It goes into, it's a little bit Venus and Mars, and it's a little bit of all those different self-help books out there, and I kind of pulled the best bits together. But what I have found is women, in fact, are now buying it more than the men. Men are a little bit hesitant about this personal development stuff sometimes. And it gives some practical tools. So it's actually part of my coach program. You get a copy of the book because it's got so many practical tools that I talk about. It just cements some of the activities we do in our coaching and underlines some of the messages and philosophies.
And I love the frustration. I mean, check out the faces. Isn't that incredible? These are frustrated men that are going, help me understand women.
And hopefully, I think the feedback is, one guy actually left a copy in a hotel room, or was it on a flight? He was traveling, he lost it. And as soon as he got back, he went, I've lost a copy. I need to get another one. So, yeah.
Oh, now you've been labelled as the alpha chick.
I've self-labeled.
You self-labeled as the alpha chick. Now, you use this in your keynote talks. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, referring back to my life in the corporate world, I loved my life. I had a great job. I was very well respected. Had a position of authority to my executives, where I was a gatekeeper for the middle management. And what you have to be able to do is bring some masculinity to face off sometimes those managers that want access to their boss. And your boss has told you on absolutely no grounds is anybody come through this door in the next 30 minutes. So how do you be an equal to men who feel they're more superior than you in the workplace? You have to bring masculine into your essence of who you are. So now I with all the work, I've looked back on my single years when I was at the pinnacle of my career and realized just how masculine I'd been. And what translated when I was dating was I had this big sign on my head. It's like, you gotta step up. And what happened was I was stepping all over them. There was no space for them to step into. So I actually have an article I've written about how you create that space. And if you're constantly, as a female, assuming that he's not got the capabilities, guess what's going to happen eventually? He's going to believe he doesn't, or he's just going to stop trying. So we're actually emasculating our men very subtly, very quietly eroding at his ability to prove that he's worthy.
Wow.
And so I've coined that as I was an alpha chick. I actually called myself something a little bit more brutal.
Wow.
And I made it very hard for men to fit into my world. It was literally, if you can't step up, then you're not worthy. When the truth was innately, I just wanted to be soft. Wow. I just wanted a pair of arms to come home to and just dissolve the day. But I didn't allow any man to be strong enough for me to be soft enough. I was sabotaging my own happiness.
Now, I know this is going to be a bit of a controversial topic, but
Bring
I
it
must
on.
bring it on because this is really important. You're a female, you understand men, you've worked in a corporate world with men, and yet you've grown up in a world where this strong feminist movement, you've grown up in this, but yet now you're this life coach and you're saying, hey, maybe we haven't been doing it right. Maybe there's something that's been happening that isn't how it should have gone. I mean, we have this full-on patriarchal system, and like a pendulum, it swung the other way because that's what pendulums do. And yet somehow, by going all the other way, we haven't created the balance. In fact, we've actually done ourselves a disservice. So we've demasculated the men, and we now are left to pretty much do both roles when we really should have been working with men and been shown how, right? So your work is quite potent now. This is really, really important. So if women are struggling out there and trying to figure out, well, what's my place? How do I be the queen of my life? And how can he be the king? How can I change my communication and how I respond and how I speak and yet stay in my power? This is what we should be teaching our women, our girls, and our boys, how to do life with each other together. Just help me explore this a little bit more in this conversation about your views on this. This is very powerful.
I'm really strong on my message. I am an advocate on behalf of men, despite what many think is a contradictory childhood. You know, I should be a man-hater based on my start to life. You know, sexually abused as a child. My first boyfriend, who was double my age, I wonder what was going on there. I literally left the house after being raped.
Wow.
But something happened and I went, never again. I don't know where that came from within me as a young 18-year-old. I went, I'm never going to be a victim again. And I'm proud to say that has never happened since.
Wow.
But I did become more masculine. The guards came up. I don't need a man, all of those statements that we have been taught through this evolution of empowering women. But what I have discovered through my work is we're segmenting our men. They're either what I call macho blokes, so the real aggressive pack mentality, and I understand where it comes from, and I can kind of have compassion for it, but it's not where I ever endorse the behavior to sit. And then, unfortunately, at the other end of the spectrum, we have men who are so distancing themselves from that way of existing and a way of behaving and treating their women in their life. They're horrified by what their brothers can do to females, that they actually shut themselves down. I don't want to be alpha. I don't want to be manly. I want the complete opposite of that. And we're actually shutting down their protective nature that we actually innately, women, seek. And so I really try and teach that there is a middle ground. Men can be vulnerable. Men can be emotional. It makes them just as powerful as men because they have the ability of feeling. We don't want robots. Women do not want robots. It's absolutely, if you get nothing else, we don't want a man who's shut down. Now we get some of the reasons why. We understand they've gone through their own hardships as a child, their own conflicting messages about how they should do manning. But how can we find and show men that they don't have to be afraid of being an alpha or a king archetypal role and be our protectors without taking away our independence, without telling us and controlling us how we should be as women? That's not what the beautiful men that I have in my world, both as clients and friends, they're just doing the best they can despite this, as you say, pendulum swing to empowering women. And I'm all for it. We need more equality. It's still not there. The Me Too campaign is starting to highlight just how prevalent the numbers of abuse used to be 1 in 4. The numbers are now looking at 1 in 2 in abuse, particularly of women. But the numbers of males admitting that they've been abused as a child is also on the increase. It's becoming more acceptable to talk about it. And with that, we need to support and nurture these men, not shit all over them.
So I'm all for women's empowerment, and we do need to be empowered. I know there will be some listeners today that will be saying, hey, you don't know what a man's done to me. I've been there, I understand. But we go all the way back to the beginning of this conversation. We talked about the power of forgiveness. So if I can forgive, I can then move into love, because what is it that we all want? We want to be loved and accepted. If I'm still in my zone of hating my perpetrator or the pedophile, whatever it is that happened to me, I'm then caught in that victim mode, and then I'm driven to be an empowered woman.
Yeah, and there's a lot in all of what you've just said. I agree with it wholeheartedly. So I just want to start with the easy part, and that's we're all capable of being masculine, feminine. You know, we can get up and get stuff done as women, and we switch on our doing energy, which is the masculine side. And likewise, men can bring in, and you know, everybody can have balance. So I don't want to just stereotype masculine, feminine. To answer the start of that question of forgiveness, it's not easy.
No.
It's not something you just flick a switch and say, I forgive my perpetrator. I have had some horrifying stories cross my path. How do you start that? Well, let's start a little bit easier, and that is the anger and the hurt and that shame and guilt and all the other stuff, is it serving you in your life? If you come to me, then clearly something's not right. You're uncomfortable, or you want to change something about your life. So you're acknowledging that something needs to change. Let's start with that. Let's not start with forgiveness. That's a really hard, it's an incredibly difficult thing to do when you don't have a balance and a sense of who you are to begin with. So we kind of got to, let's just pause the need for that. And it's too hard at the start, but absolutely the way you can live a life full of spark and energy and vibrancy is by letting go of the heavy stuff that we are carrying around. That's why they've coined it somewhere along the way as baggage. Anything that's heavy, anything that's dark, anything that's shadow is not serving. How can we let that go so that we do shine brightly and be the best version in our intimate relationships, in our family relationships, in our work relationships? So look at what we can work with to begin with, and then move into forgiveness. Because some people have a lot to, it seems impossible to be able to forgive.
So what does the future now look like for continuing your work, empowering couples, women, men? What does that look like? Where are you taking us?
So I'm a businesswoman as well as a coach and a healer. I have a very clear vision of my coaching practice and where that's going to be, and I'm going to bring in other specialists. So I am expanding my business into a coaching hub. So I have that centralized position, particularly for things like divorces, which still come about. But how can you divorce with grace and not get caught up in all that stuff? So bringing in different practitioners and experts to support my clients as a centralized service. And then continue my keynotes, continue to spread in the world that women equally have a part to play.
Thank you, Mel, for sharing these amazing insights today. You truly are an inspiration with everything you've been through, what you're doing today, and your future work. I commend you for that, and I'm so looking forward to working with you in the future and having more of these conversations. So thank you for coming in today.
You're welcome. It was deep and heavy, but thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.